Well, I finally got to wear my Mickey Mouse cummerbund to something. When I was young, about third grade, my mom tested me on some flashcards, and I went back to school, and I was the only boy that could beat the girls in our class. And I think it was about that time I started to think of myself as good at something, that this was my direction. Mathematics and science, and I think to the early school years and the influences of books and teachers praising you for science fair projects and that sort of thing. I was very lucky to be growing up in Santa Clara Valley, which became Silicon Valley. I was influenced by a lot of Tom Swift books and other books about technology that made heroes out of the people that had the smarts to design their own things and build their own things. We had a lot of electronic kids in the neighborhood that would share activities like wiring our houses with house-to-house intercoms and getting into walkies and communication receivers. And my father was an engineer, and he got his ham radio with me when I was in 6th grade, and he would teach me with a little blackboard. He would teach me how circuits worked, what the calculations were. And I stumbled into my first computer journals that he had, actually, and saw a couple of articles and said, boy, no kid sees this stuff, but it's possible, and it's really amazing. My dad also influenced me to believe that education was the best thing that I was getting, and that was really what all young kids, what was going to make this a better world. And I felt like the teachers must be the most important people in the world. And I asked him, don't teachers make more than engineers? No. Well, I think if a family of 5 had 5 votes, they would. And in myself, I was pretty much self-taught in the whole field of electronics and computers. And I would do design after design after design on paper. I never had money to afford the parts and couldn't get companies to give them to me. And in doing that kind of a practice, you have no one to do it with. You have no one to share it. There's no way to be graded except intrinsically. In your own head, you can keep track of, can I design it better than I did before? Can I design it with fewer parts? Can I think of a trick nobody else would think of? And almost all my spare time would just come into any little occurrence that occurred to me that worked. Remember it forever. And another thing that I found was very important throughout my design years that led to being here was it was sometimes necessary to give up the knowledge you have and pass it by. And you already are skilled at something. You know how it's done and you know why it's done. Sometimes just throw it out. Maybe there's a fresh start, a different approach that can do it. Maybe it can't quite do as much, and you could put it down if you want to, but you've got to somehow step your whole mind into a different atmosphere and somehow visualize a world that's different and not with the parts that are here today, not with computers as they are today, not with calculators as they are today. And that was very important. And I also am kind of thankful that I didn't have the resources and the money along the way. And I didn't necessarily have training in a lot of the great things that I created because I sat down and I was fresh and I could sit down and I had to design something that was very inexpensive always, and it had to be I just designed it what I felt was good with today's technology rather than the prior technology, which I might not even have known. And I'm very honored to be in this group. I couldn't think of a better group as I walk around talking to some of the inventors that have been inducted here. I mean, last time they were talking induction for me was the Vietnam War. And I talked to some of the other inductees, and every one of them is just full of stories and excitement. And it's like a joy and a fun of life. In all that we did was we created things and built them and wired them, whether they had value or none, or were just for fun or were jokes. And and almost all of us just wish that every young person has a chance to enjoy that in life. Thank you very much.